a couple key points. First of all, Hong Kong is a regional asset management center. Clearly, no question, it's leveraged off China. We heard all the pros about that this morning. As I've seen Hong Kong evolve over the last 20 years, 20 years ago it was an East Asia Pacific regional asset management center. It's become more and more focused on China. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, I think we leave history to judge. But it appears a fantastic thing given the growth of China, both inward investment and outward investment. But it is becoming more and more concentrated as a China center rather than an East Asian center. In fact, if you look around Asia at regional financial centers, 20 years ago, Japan was a regional financial center. It's become really just a domestic financial market. Singapore, in my opinion, is actually better placed as a sort of South Asia, East Asia hub because of geographic and cultural affinity and ethnic connections with both South Asia and East Asia. But the rise of China means Hong Kong's got a huge future as a China-focused center. Of course, there's other little microcurrents going on that are somewhat against that. For example, you're seeing lots of overseas companies, Russian companies listed in Hong Kong. And so you're now seeing expertise in Hong Kong. It's not just China-focused, but also commodity-focused and other asset management expertise developing. Another point I'd like to make is equities versus debt versus commodities and treasury products. Hong Kong has always been an equity center. It's a great equity center. It's, I think, the best in East Asia for equities. But if you look at other products that we can invest in, Singapore has a great fixed income debt market and treasury products market, probably better than Hong Kong, in my opinion. But that doesn't mean it's exclusive. Hong Kong does fixed income debt products. Singapore does equity products as well. But in terms of where the expertise is, where the investment banks focus their activity, where the asset management skills for those products, you see a bit of a split between equities in Hong Kong and fixed income treasury in Singapore. With the rise of the renminbi, Hong Kong may challenge Singapore, maybe become the biggest the biggest forex trading center. Now I think it's a bit split. I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but I think forex is split between Singapore and Hong Kong. But with the renminbi rise, and China's clearly giving Hong Kong an advantage in that it will not give to any other territory. Hong Kong could easily be by far the biggest forex trading center in 5 or 10 years' time. Commodities is an interesting area to talk about because neither Hong Kong nor Singapore really dominate commodity trading in Asia. Singapore has a bit of an advantage in petroleum products because Singapore has always been a transshipment, a trading center for oil, and some cracking goes on there. So you do have oil products traded in Singapore. The really interesting thing, if you look at commodities, is that China has 3 very, very active commodity exchanges that are now some of the biggest in the world, although they're not open to international capital. For example, soybeans for 100 years have been dominated by the Chicago Board of Trade. But if you look at soybean trading, Dalian in Northeast China is a bigger exchange-traded center for soybean trading than anywhere else in the world, including Chicago now. Copper, London still dominates, LME dominates copper trading, but for many, many years, New York COMEX was the second biggest copper trading exchange. Now Shanghai copper contract is much bigger than New York, not quite as big as London. But so how commodities are traded in East Asia and who dominates that, I think, is up in the air. I think both Hong Kong and Singapore are trying to position themselves as gateways for commodity trading, both physical trading and for futures trading. But that's really, I think, open. That will be played out over the next 10 years. Another point I wanted to touch on was the regulatory environment. I think Hong Kong is a very good jurisdiction to run an asset management business. It is tough, I think, for especially a boutique firm setting up. It is a little bit of an onerous jurisdiction because you have to have 2 responsible officers. That's not a complaint, but that is a reality, and I think if you're a one-man show, you struggle with that a little bit. But it's a fair jurisdiction. As James made a point about it's a stable regulatory environment. We watched the U.S. and Europe sort of blow up in terms of their financial regulation. There's been no change in Hong Kong. In fact, Martin Lee gave a very good speech saying that Hong Kong had been through the Asian financial crisis, 97-98, and had learned from that experience and matured through that, and really didn't have any reason to make changes to its regulatory environment, which has really held, I think, kept Hong Kong very steady. The last point I want to make is Hong Kong versus Shanghai. And every time I hear this discussion, I actually think that people are missing part of the picture. And that is that the real financial center in China is Beijing. And I think if you ignore that, I think you ignore reality. About 7 years ago, I considered putting an office in China. I do have an office in China. And I assumed I would do it in Shanghai. But the more I studied China, the more I realized that Beijing is the financial center. It's where all of the state policy originates from. It's where the major banks are located, the asset management companies. We're actually split between Shanghai, Beijing, and Shenzhen in the south. It's where the life insurance companies are based. It's where the state assets are based. And it's actually where most of the corporations are based. If you do a scatter plot of where the Chinese listed companies are based, the big listed companies, because they're all SOEs, are overwhelmingly based in Beijing, only a couple in Shanghai. So we picked Beijing as the center, and we've had an office here for 7 years, and I'm absolutely convinced that was the right decision. So when you think about Shanghai versus Hong Kong, don't forget that really Beijing is the financial center of China. And so, not that you should open an office here necessarily, but just in your equation thinking, just remember that Beijing really is the financial center of China. So in the interest of, I'll sit down, we'll go off to question and answer. Thank you.